Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Beth Genley, your host of this segment called Action Update. And this year on Action Update, we are talking to climate activists and scientists because climate is an emergency on this planet and we all need to do what we can. Today I'm talking to Dale Feik. Most of my people on Action Update have been focused on the wider concerns of climate change. Dale is an activist right here in our own backyard, and he's very effective. So I'm very excited to have you here today, Dale. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me, Beth.
And Dale, I understand that Toastmasters is responsible for some of your effectiveness as an activist. Can you tell that story?
I can. I was involved in trying to denuclearize the world in the 1980s. And I'm a former teacher, but public speaking was not my forte. So in the 1980s, I joined Hillsborough Toastmasters Club. And in doing that, I became educational vice president for 1 year. And then I became president for 2 terms, 2 years. And that was one of the best experiences I had. Even though I have a doctor's degree in reading education, the information and skills I learned by a Toastmaster helped me, I think, become more effective in presenting information and trying to persuade people to do something to address climate change.
All right. Way cool. So you've been using table topics in your 5 to 7 minute speeches and organizing speeches. All those skills have come in handy.
Yes, and Toastmasters, you know, it's designed to help people improve their ability to speak, listen, think, and lead. And I emphasize the 3, and I got my Competent Toastmaster certificate, and I think a couple Advanced Toastmaster certificates. But the leading part was very important to me because I wanted to be able to express points of view and try to be persuasive, but also listen, okay, and to get a dialogue so that we can work on a very existential problem right now. So the nuclear, as I've said before to people, we have a basic problem. Either we're going to blow ourselves up with a nuclear war or escalation of that. I mean, I laugh, but it's not a funny matter. Or we're going to cook ourselves slowly. And so I choose at this point to spend my time and energy trying to address the climate crisis because I can't really address too much the nuclear stuff right now.
So I understand that you're also very passionate about clean air and clean water, and I wonder if you can connect them all to us. The climate crisis, clean air, clean water, connect those dots for us.
I started the nonprofit Hillsborough Air and Water because water and air, you have air toxics, but many of those toxics are in the water, and we have a cycle. Nothing goes away. We have a circle, and everything stays on the earth, really. And so one toxic emission influences another one. So I've been involved with the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. I go to their meetings related to water, and then also I attend their meetings related to air. So the Environmental Quality Commission in Oregon is the 5-member board appointed by the governor, Governor Brown. She fired most of them, and they have a new board. And so they are responsible for hiring and firing the director of DEQ and also all the policy that's brought to, the policy decisions are brought to that commission from the department. And so they are, land though, I mean, you still have to consider land, but I'm really involved in air and water.
You know, it occurs to me that most of us are familiar with the DEQ only because we have to get our cars certified every year or two. It sounds like there's a lot more that they do that you can mix into as an activist.
They are an all-inclusive agency looking out for land, air, and water. That's their mission. And so their goal is to enhance, not make it worse, enhance and improve the quality of that. And they have a large staff, and the least thing I'm interested in is taking my car in for DEQ assessment.
Yeah.
That's the least thing I'm concerned about. They generally, in the Portland metropolitan area, they've really cleaned up a lot of the ozone because of that, but they're really working hard to clean up the air. toxic air emissions, and also the wastewater discharges from industrial polluters.
So talk a little bit about that. I understand you were helpful in developing a list of the worst polluters in Washington County, if I have that right.
That is correct. I'm project director of Hillsborough Air and Water. I think I said that. And that's a project under the direction of Portland Clean Air. And so what we did, there were three of us. We went into DEQ. You can review files of all the industries in Washington, Clackamas, and Multnomah counties. You can review them and make copies of them. And we did it digitally, so we didn't have to pay a lot of fee for the paper. And so we got all the air contaminant discharge permits, the basic permits, the simple permits, and the Title V operating permits, air permits. And we put them online, and then we analyzed them. Pete Shepard was the interim director for DEQ when Dick Peterson resigned because of the bullseye glass issue in the Portland area. But Pete Shepard, when he was interim, required all those industrial polluters to submit all their mass balance emissions, air emissions. And then it took the DEQ a year and a half, 2 years, and they got it together. And Portland Clean Air, Greg Rouget did the same thing. We had a press release, and that information is being used now to at least inform the public and hold decision makers more accountable for when they do a land use decision. And for instance, they say, come into our county, we will give you a few tax breaks. But now the people that live around those will know more what they're also bringing in besides jobs. They're bringing in also pollution. And so we are able to inform people and hopefully put more pressure on those industries to put more controls on their emissions so they don't poison as many people.
Yeah, not to put too fine a point on it. Yeah, poison just sounds like a bad thing.
Well, it is. Poison, I mean, that's the, with climate change right now, the carbons, DEQ, if you go to the Environmental Quality Commission, you have DEQ staff that are very specialist. And they give technical reports. And one of the technical reports that when I go to those meetings, no matter where are they in the state, if they're in Klamath Falls or the Dalles or Tillamook, I started in 2013 in going to Tillamook to an Environmental Quality Commission meeting. So I go 2 or 3 days, I listen, they have an opportunity to make public comment, I do that. But they give good information. One, within the last year, the specialists talked about the greenhouse gases in Oregon, and they have charts. And they're based upon different sectors. So you got transportation, you got agriculture, you got forestry, you got commercial and residential industry. So you have about 6 different sectors, and it was and their goals. The DEQ and the state have goals for greenhouse gas, and up through 2050. The problem with that, and it was projected to be, now I don't have the numbers right, but we'll just, for illustration purposes.
Okay.
So we'll say the goal was to have it down to 15 million tons of carbon. Well, it's projected now to be 60.
That's, yeah.
And then 2017, it was projected, and it's way higher than what it was. So when I read that, when I saw that, and then I used that when I make public comment before the Environmental Quality Commissioners and say, oh darn, we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And they listen to that. And so I really like Richard Whitman, the director of DEQ, because he's not only working and trying to fulfill the mission of DEQ, what he's also is working with those different sectors, the forestry department, the agriculture department. It's got to be a full steam ahead, just like Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Kerry, started an organization called World War Zero.
Wow. Okay.
Because you got to treat it like it is a war. You've got to really have everybody on board doing everything they can. Now I may become a vegan because I went to somebody that was 350.org. She's a vegan, and my wife and I are at least looking at plant-based eating instead of eating on the food chain of cattle and beef, because every little thing makes a difference. But I'm really looking at the big things more than the little things right now.
Okay, we're going to talk about the big things and the little things when we come back from the break. Hang on, we'll be right back.
What do you learn in Toastmasters? Not just how to deliver a great speech, not just how to be more confident when you do that. You learn the art, the craft of speech writing. People get paid a lot of dollars to write speeches for famous people. You can be one of those, or you can just write speeches for yourself. But you can learn not only to deliver those speeches in Toastmasters, to craft a well-written speech. What you write and what you say are sometimes different because the written word and the spoken word come across differently. So in Toastmasters, you learn how to craft a speech with a strong opening to catch that audience, a good body to deliver your message, and a closing to wrap it all together. You learn how to write that speech, deliver that speech, improve that speech with greater confidence. That is part of the package you get in Toastmasters.
Welcome back to Action Update. I'm Beth Genley, and right now we're talking with Dale Feik, our local activist. So Dale, you brought up a number of threads that I want to follow up here in our second half. First, I want to back up to this notion you were able to research who created the worst pollution in the area, and there was a 30 worst polluters list. Where can people find more information about that so they can follow up with their legislators and the companies?
I made public comment about that to the Washington County Commissioners. I gave them a handout and listed those 30 according to public health, the worst to the least worst 30. And so that document is on Hillsborough Air and Water. So somebody would just Google Hillsborough Air and Water or .org, you would be able to pull that document up. You would also be able to get links to all the industries in Washington County and Multnomah County that have basic, simple air contaminant discharge permits and Title V operating permits. And you would find out where they are, and you can look at the permits. So Hillsborough Air and Water is a place you could find that information.
Okay, beautiful. All right, that's really important when you're worried about poisons in the air and water and where they're coming from. All right, so another thread that I wanted to follow up on was this notion of our personal choices. So you had said that you were thinking of cutting down the amount of meat in your diet. Why?
Main reason is, I think the evidence is fairly clear, that a lot of land is being cleared for the raising of beef, sheep maybe, but animals that we consume. Problem with that is those animals end up, at least the beef, cows, end up having a lot of methane that's produced, but also you have to clear the land, and when they clear the land, sometimes they reduce rainforests. They make land that they have to grow food to keep the animal that's on the top of their food chain, and it's not very good for the earth. And it's also not very good for the person eating it. So for my own health, it'd be better, because I've gained some weight, and I'm having a little bit of issue with that. And so it'd be better for my own health if I reduce food consumption, but more importantly, it'd be better for the earth. So
I just want to emphasize this. If people are interested in looking into that some more, the plant-based eating is the overview there. Some people go all the way to vegan, but plant-based eating will get you enough farther along so that you're reducing your own carbon footprint substantially. That's my understanding.
And that's mine too. And my wife is a good cook, and she loves to cook steaks and other things. And so she said, I'm willing to do plant-based, but I'm not willing to be a vegan. So, and we've been married 47 years, and I rely a lot on her ability to prepare our meals.
So that's a good compromise,
yes, it is,
from that point of view as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, and it seems to me there was a third thread that we were going to follow up here, and it's It's escaping me. Oh, you were, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You were talking a little bit more about the DEQ. Oh, I know what it was. It was the business of being able to know what the state has set for the amount of carbon emissions per year for different sectors, and being able as activists to hold government accountable and hold those industries accountable for those levels.
One way to do that is to attend Environmental Quality Commission meetings. And DEQ has a website, and they have a website on that. It says the Commission of Environmental Quality, and you can find out when those meetings are, and you can go to those meetings. You can make public comment through call-in, and then you can also send written comment in. So you can do it all three. I do it all of those ways. I go personally, I make oral comment, and I send written comment. And they also have the agendas and the material online, so you can read ahead of time what they're going to say.
Okay.
So
you don't have to have a doctorate in environmental quality or whatever, or be a politician in order to attend these meetings.
Not at all. And they, just like Catherine Harrington being elected the new county commissioner, she is asking anybody to come and get involved. One of her goals is to get active citizen participation. And so county level, city level, state level, there's plenty of opportunities to use Toastmaster skills, but more importantly, to try to make a difference to make the earth better.
Yeah. All right, and so that's very inspiring for those of us that kind of don't know where to start. You can just show up to one of these meetings and make a short comment, right? It doesn't have to be a long speech.
And you don't even have to say a thing. So, you can just be there as a presence. Mm-hmm. And because I have some friends that are that way, but their presence makes a difference and support the people that do speak.
I see, okay. All right, so there's lots of room for us to get more active locally to make a difference for our communities and our organizations.
Yes.
All right, so I always like to ask my guests for 3 books that people can read for more, to expand their knowledge base and to go deeper here. And what are your 3 books that you'd recommend? And we have a few minutes, so you can talk about each one of them.
I was just going to ask you, how many times? Get a Toastmaster.
About 5 minutes,
That's
so
what
there you go.
You know, in Toastmaster meeting, you have clocks, right? You have to stay within your time. And that's what I learned about making public comment. Having that Toastmaster skill and knowing when to stop speaking. When that red light goes on, you need to quit. So we have about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yes, we do, yeah.
3 books. Footprint, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Extinction by John Patterson. When my wife and I decided to make a statement, we put solar panels on our roof. First ones were solar panels for hot water. 2 years later, we put photovoltaic panels on the roof. In Forest Grove, the electricity rates are pretty cheap, 6 cents a kilowatt hour. But we put them on there, and the second time they were put on, John Patterson shared me that book, Footprint, A Funny Thing. Funny is a funny thing. It's not funny, but funny thing happened on the way to extinction. And so in that book, he has 60 ways a person can reduce a person's footprint, starting from very simple things like turning down your thermostat or reduce the amount of air conditioning or reduce the amount of heat you put in. Very simple things, or all the way up to solar panels, which most people can't do. They're expensive, really, to do. But you have 60 ways to do that. Very, very good book. The other book would be Storms of My Grandchildren by James Hansen, the climatologist in the 1980s that blew the whistle, really let people know that we have a climate problem. And Storms of My Grandchildren, and he, James Hansen, wrote a little forward to Footprint, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Extinction. James Hansen, I know him personally, and he's a little bit older than I am, and he also is supportive of the 21 youth suing the federal government over climate change, and also the state suits. There's this suit in every state about climate change, and Oregon's is still active. Third book, I would say, would be Aristotle's Nicodemus Ethics, but that was rewritten so it's understandable. That was written 2,000 years ago. But Mortimer J. Adler wrote that so it's easier to understand, and he wrote, Aristotle for everybody, difficult thought made easy. And that is a book that I use to help me guide my morals in climate change. Because climate change is a moral issue. It's a life and death, right or wrong issue. And so it's helpful to have sound philosophy when doing that. Now, I'm also a National Issues Forum convener. I did that in the 1990s. And I like those. They have issue books. And they just had one on climate change. And I just went to a session on that. I didn't convene it, but I want to, because they present the issues in 3 different ways. And so you can have someone that's a strong denier, and their point of view will be there. You can have somebody that's on the fence, or you can have somebody like me that's saying we got to have World War Z on this, right? But it's a way for people to talk with each other. And we got to have the Republicans, the Democrats, the Independent, everybody working together, talking with each other to try to solve this major problem.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we'll have those 3 books listed on the online version of this interview so that people can look them up. Anything else that you want to add before we close down here?
I would just say thanks for Toastmasters, thanks for education, thanks for people, audience that want to watch this and either be entertained or take action. And I prefer that people take action.
I prefer that people take action as well. All right, I have a bit of news for you all. I'm going on a long trip in Europe. I'm hoping when I come back to be able to share with you more information about activism in Europe on the subject of climate change. So for now, I'm Beth Genley signing off of Action Update. We'll see you back here in a few months.
Welcome to an opportunity to take the next step of your professional speaking journey. I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever wished you were a star in a television show? Or at an event where the media is interviewing bystanders and you are wanting to be picked to give your opinion of the event? Or even in the smallest sense, you're at a sports game and secretly hope that your smiling face would appear on that big jumbo screen TV? But the jumbo screen always finds the fans with the painted faces. And you think to yourself, maybe next time. Well, what if I can offer you a chance to be on TV? Would you take it? That is what I want to offer you now. I'm Dottie Love, Associate TV Producer and Director. Toastmasters International is one of the largest organizations whose mission is to help improve your speaking skills. And District 7 is expanding your opportunities to do speaking via television. We have 4 fully equipped television studios and TV Toastmaster broadcasts to over 500,000 homes, plus a YouTube channel. Who knew? We want to invite you to take advantage of using media and television, either in front or behind the scenes. Let me share a few options that you have. First, you can be a guest on a show. Highlight your business or hobby or your community interest. Anything you're passionate about. Be a featured guest. Secondly, you can train to be a host on an ongoing TV segment. We will train you for that. Third, what about creating your own talk show? We will train you for that as well and give you access to a community media studio to do just that. Or lastly, be behind the scenes, either running a camera or editing shows. You decide which avenue is best for you, and our TV Toastmasters team will help you to navigate to get the most out of your media experience. Personally, I've done them all. I started as a guest, went to hosting, up to directing my own TV show. I don't tell you this to impress you. I tell you this to impress upon you that your personal growth with Toastmasters is directly related to what you take advantage of. And I encourage you to be bold in looking for opportunities to stretch and grow. If this intrigues you, or If you have club members who you think that might be interested in this, please contact us here at TV Toastmasters. I'm Dottie Love, and you can reach me or any of us in the TV Toastmasters family at the contact information at the bottom of the screen. You can also find us on the web. Our website is 7512.toastmastersclub.org.